What's happening? Just kind of the spur of the moment. It's weird because I've always used to. You for a long time, right? I'm gonna talk about a few things in this vid, but for a long time, I used to not even like in college doing funny vids, sketches, this, that, doing wild shit. In my mind, I'm like, I don't, I just don't want to be the YouTube guy, There's like, edit, putting. I hate editing. I hate, technology drives me fucking nuts. But I never wanted. I don't want to upload it to YouTube, man. That's just corny. I'd say up until a few years, yeah, I'd say from like 20 to like 28. I'm like, just the YouTube guys uploaded to YouTube, and I did upload some stand up and monologues and this and that, and I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with uploading things to YouTube? You know? Like, or consider it a YouTuber. What the fuck's wrong with that? You know? Um, I mean, I'd rather someone see this and it means something to them than it not happen. You know? Um, but I've been thinking about this a lot recently. Especially since the new year and like, you know, just being like 31 now, and it's been a very spiritual. 31's been a very like spiritual year, and I mean, I just wanted, and I had a buddy pass away a few months ago, and just some of the pinpointed things that happened around that were beautiful and that were very morose. Um, I might as well explain it. Like he took his own life. And I saw him. I did this like side job interview. Um, After I did this play, it's got windy in here. It's cold as shit outside. I had just done this play where I played like a German Moravian during like the late 1700s, like Revolutionary War times, and I'd really got into like spirituality and the faith and the peace that brought them, right? And I have German ancestry, and there's a lot of they were German, and the last name of my character, I had just seen this girl, where her last name is Schlegel. The character I played, last name Schlegel. I saw this video of her talking about her brother that killed himself. That happened to my mother, and I saw like 4 days after this wrapped, I saw my buddy in Old Town Alexandria, Virginia, and I ran into him, and I was in Five Guys, and I ran outside. I was like, Tom, what the fuck, what's happened? I had seen him in years, I had seen him in like 4 years, and he's had some issues and stuff and PTSD, and and we talked, man. We talked, and I hugged him, and I was just like, dude, you're the fucking man. I didn't want to like, I knew because he's figured out, he was figured out in his mind, and he looked good. He's taking the trolley to the gym. He's vibing. And I told he's a big family. I'm close with his whole family. I'm close friends with his brother. And I was like, yeah, I saw Tom, And I remember, so like fast forward a little bit, and the weekend like of Halloween, I worked and this and that. I was with a good friend of mine, and October 31st, obviously Halloween. November 1st, November 2nd, like I was best man for my buddy in his wedding, November 2nd, 24. And I remember, November 2nd this year, I was like really emotional, right? Um, like I was really emotional, like November 2nd, I was like, fuck, I was just like, I teared up a few times. I mean, in a beautiful way, but staring out the window, and his brother calls me 2 days later saying that he died. He took his own life, and and I've written poems. There's always a theme, like there's always, in a way, your mind wants to say that you knew that would happen, or that is a possibility, but you didn't, because we want to live and we want to get to tomorrow, and it does get better. Like, I promise you it gets better. Because this apartment where I'm talking right now, I've done, bits about it, and, I've written stuff about it, where it's like, the definition of misery, it's like, I don't want to die in this apartment, and I don't want to die in this apartment. I just sit here living alone. I don't want to sit here and some fucking building manager fucking finds me. So I'm gonna live. I'm gonna keep living. I'm gonna figure it the fuck out. And then you laugh with yourself, When you see the darkness, it does get better. But Tom, and you have to accept Tom was at peace with that. Tom was at peace with that. And it was like, awake, and, I saw him. And I was like, I just saw you not even 2 months ago, you fuck. But if you found salvation, or you found God, we're all hurt, but you found clarity, But I thought a lot about that after he passed. But it does get better. Whether examples tell you or not. And again, I wish he knew. I'd like to think he did. I knew him well, but I'd like to think he did. He's with God, or he's with a presence that, he found peace. But I've been there. And my uncle. If they choose that, it's not selfish. But in my experience,